This is Global
This
Tel
call
Link.
is now
You
being
have a
recorded.
prepaid call from
Silas Johnson.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello.
Yeah.
So right before the phone call cut off, I was trying to ask. I've heard other people speak about some incident that happened between the blacks and another group. It was some type of big incident. I don't recall exactly what the details were. Do you are you familiar with an issue that happened like that?
In Corcoran Shoe,
Yeah. Or Corcoran. I'm not sure if it was
uh,
a shoe or not.
I know in Corcoran Shoe in around '99, probably a couple of years before I got arrested, it came to a head like in '99 and like in the late '90s, there were incidents where, basically human cockfights where correctional officers were putting blacks and Southern Mexicans on the yard, and they would go at it, and they would shoot individuals on the yard. I mean, they were actually betting on the fights between black and Southern Mexican prisoners. That was a huge thing. In fact, they actually did a 60 minutes expose on the whole corrupt institution that they had going on back then. I spent 5.5 years in Corcoran Shoe from April, roughly 5.5, from April 2008 until June 2013, and it's but for that incident. There were a couple incidents that followed. There were I believe, two more incidents as after the aftershocks of the riot that we had on the group yard. There was also another one on 4A4 left, and there was another incident in 4A4 right when I was there before I got transferred. But besides that, I can't recall any major incidents.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
So
Between
so
ethnicities during the time that I was there.
so once you got there, so they were known as the gladiator, right? The gladiator or something of that nature, where they were pitting everybody against each other. So you weren't there anymore, or that transpired before you got there, then, right?
Right, that predated years. That predated my arrival. Although Corcoran Shoe officials are still corrupt as hell, I mean that to that degree, it wasn't happening when I arrived here.
So once you committed your third stabbing, did you stay there, or were you shipped off somewhere else?
Oh no, I stayed. I mean that was June 2009, and I stayed until June 2013. I mean, I had 4 more years left to do there. I would do 4 more years after that. Um, yeah, there's nowhere else to go. I mean,
Oh,
Tehachapi Shoe, Portland Shoe, and Pelican Bay Shoe. As far as the California prison system, the shoe is the floor you can't fall below. There's at that point, there's the options of punishment are over. I mean, this is the most that can happen. I mean, obviously besides death row at the time, but I mean, essentially the death row residents were getting more program than we were because they were getting contact visits and we were getting visits behind glass. So, I mean, the shoe is the floor you can't fall below.
so was all your movement restricted for those 4 years you were there?
Yeah, from in ASEC and in the shoe, everywhere that you go is controlled movement. And what I mean by controlled movement is they have a tray slot. They call it a tray slot. They open it up and then they lock it with a padlock. They give you your tray, your food through there. They give you your supplies, your toiletries, your toilet paper, your soap. They give you your canteen through there, which is taken, broken down. If you have shampoo, they have a They pour it in a cup and give it to you because you're not allowed the plastic bottles. If you have soups, top ramen soups, they give them to you in a paper bag, and they take all the seasoning packs and they dump them into a cup. So everything you're stripped down. You can't have a regular toothbrush. Think of a toothbrush is about as long as your pinky. Or if you get one out of the package, they break it in half before they give it to you. Everywhere you go, you're handcuffed. If you go to the shower, you turn around, you put your hands through the tray slot, you're handcuffed, and you walk to the shower where they lock you into the shower. And they uncuff you and you shower. If you go to visit, you're handcuffed, you put on a jumpsuit, and you go to visit handcuffed. They lock you in a booth. You get your handcuffs off, and you sit down, and you pick up a phone, and you have a visit with your loved ones from behind a glass. If you go to medical, you put on a jumpsuit, you get handcuffed at the tray slot, you walk to medical, you see a doctor. When they lock you in the cage first, you wait in the cage, and then they come and get you once the doctor's ready. You see the doctor. You're handcuffed, shackled the whole time. The only time you get uncuffed is if there's something serious. You go to Central Health, which is where they actually do X-rays, or you see a specialist. And they take one of the handcuff. They take the handcuff off and handcuff you to the bed. So when you go to yard, the yards are kennel cages that aren't the group yard, and you get handcuffed. They take you there. They open the slot and they uncuff you, and you're locked in a cage with the sink and the toilet for 2.5 hours until they come back to get you and take you back in the building. It's controlled movement everywhere. You're not outside of your cell. The only time that you are uncuffed is when you are in one cage or the next. Besides that, if you are outside of a cage, which is your cell, which is the yard cage, which is a medical cage, which is a visiting cage booth, you're handcuffed.
What do you do to pass the time and not deteriorate? Are you reading books, writing, exercising? What would consist of a normal day for you there?
Well, in prison, particularly the shoe and accent, the days tend to blend together. So you have to develop what we call a program, a series of tasks that you perform every day. So it would be, you get up, you wash up in the morning, either you work out, you wash bird bath, which is a shower in your cell, you have your breakfast. If there's yard that day, you go to yard, you work out again, you come back in, you shower, you write letters, you write crazy amounts of letters. There are no phone calls in the SHU, so you write letters. Mail is the only way that you're going to communicate with somebody from the outside world, unless you receive a death notification, in which they'll give you about a 5-minute call with the officer standing right there and listening to you being notified that someone has passed. There's a lot of reading going there.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
You have your television in the cell with you, so so you can watch television. If you're fortunate enough to have a radio with a television on back then, you listen to music, reading. Mostly just exercising, reading, and a lot of writing. 80% of my poetry book was written in corporate jail. So you do a lot of writing and a lot of introspection as well. Some of us. I know I did.
On one of our earlier conversations, you mentioned that you wrote a book. How did that come about?
In one of the most organic ways, actually, I began writing essays and writing poetry just as a way to stave off, just the monotony of every day and just the anger, the shame, the guilt, the loneliness, all of the things, you know, all of the things that the bereavement, I've had my cousin passed away when I was in the shoe. My aunt passed away while I was back there. My best friend passed away when I was back there. So just dealing with all of that, it just gave me writing, and poetry gave me an outlet to kind of exercise all of those things and expel all of those bad feelings and even good feelings and hopeful feelings. It was just a cathartic way for me to get everything out. And initially, I had no plans but just to write. I just wrote for myself. I wrote to save my sanity. It would be years later in 2019 where I actually looked at everything while I was here in Centinela prison and actually look at everything and screen out what I didn't like, some of the stuff that was dated. And I came and to about roughly 70 pieces, and I thought to myself that, I could actually do something with this. And even then, I didn't know it would be a book. I just wanted to do something and to chronicle those moments in time.
How did you develop the context to publish your book?
Wow. Just something else that was happenstance. I was watching a commercial and saw an ad for Newman Springs Publishing, and I had transcribed everything that I had written. I had a typewriter. I bought a typewriter when I got back to the main line, and so everything I had written was just on paper, and so I transcribed everything to my typewriter, and so I had an actual manuscript, and so I contacted them. I reached out to them. They responded, and I sent my manuscript to them, and the process started from there.
And what's the name of your book?
Rivers Light in a Barren Tunnel, Elegies and Effigy.
And if somebody's interested in picking up your book, can they pick it up on Amazon or what? Where can they buy your book at?
You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can order it from Newman Springs Publishing's website. You can pretty much order it from anywhere the books are sold. And you can also download it online as well.